5 reasons why you should watch Gangs of Wasseypur. An Indian film that challenges Tarantino. Being India's most successful crime thriller noir movie, Gangs of Wasseypur is a film that everyone should watch once before they die. Set in the small town of Wasseypur, which is a world where sensuality, terror, and crime coexist. Furthermore, there are several Western tropes in director Anurag Kashyap's film, so much so that even Martin Scorsese has appreciated the film. Gangs of Wasseypur boasts a stellar cast, grit and grime, iconic characters, and a compelling plot rivaling the best of crime films ever made, and also paved the way for Indian cinema to go the neo-noir way, depicting realism through the lens. It was time that someone jotted down the reasons why you should watch Gangs of Wasseypur, a film that has made a place for itself in the Hall of Fame of crime films. But before we begin, please consider subscribing to us. It may be a small click from you, but it goes a long way for us. Let's begin, shall we? Gangs of Wasseypur, a 2-part epic. This gangster epic covers 3 generations of Qureshi and non-Qureshi Muslims and an industrialist named Ramidhir Singh, and their tussle for power for over 7 decades. The story takes place in the small towns of Wasseypur and Dhanbad. The first part of this 2-part film opens with a house surrounded by gang members unleashing a wave of bullets and grenades upon it to massacre the family inside. As they leave, the gang's leader informs politician JP Singh of the successful execution, only to be double-crossed as they are ambushed at a police checkpost. The scene cuts abruptly, and in narration, Nasir informs us of Wasseypur's history. A coal mining hub, Wasseypur was inhabited by Muslims divided into 2 warring sides, the Qureshis, who had traditionally controlled the town, and the non-Qureshi Muslims. We go back to 1941, where Shahid Khan, an non-Qureshi, gets banished from Wasseypur after being caught looting British coal trains while impersonating the infamous Qureshi dacoit named Sultan Adaku. Shahid takes up work in the coal mines of Dhanbad, which were managed by the then strongman, Ramidhir Singh. As his wife dies in childbirth, Shahid is forced to continue work at the coal mines by Ramidhir's henchmen. An enraged Shahid beats up the henchman and begins working directly for Ramidhir, replacing the previous henchman. Soon after India gained independence from colonial rule, Ramidhir acquired several British coal mines, thus becoming one of the most influential and powerful people in the area. Back in those days, the rich were more powerful, even more so than ministers. But Shahid was an ambitious man and wanted more than what he had. One day, Ramidhir overhears Shahid's ambitions of taking over the coal mines by eliminating Ramidhir. Naturally, Ramidhir planned to kill Shahid instead and sent Shahid on an assignment to a man named Yadav, who killed him in cold blood. Meanwhile, Ahsan Qureshi is sent to murder Shahid's son Sardar Khan, but Sardar escapes the attack with his uncle Nasser and cousin Asghar. Fearing for his life, Ahsan lies about what transpired at Shahid's house, leading Ramidhir to believe that Shahid and his family have been wiped out. Sardar Khan was indeed his father's son, and upon learning about his father's death, a young Sardar vows to keep his head shaved until he avenges his father. Over the years, Ramidhir becomes richer and gains more power as a local politician, mine owner, and mafia gang head. But by now, young Sardar had become a man. In 1972, Sardar began his vengeful mission by hijacking coal trucks of Ramidhir Singh along with Nasser and Ashar. He also gets married to Nagma, a firebrand woman. However, he starts sleeping around when his wife gets pregnant. Angry and frustrated, Nagma warns him to do whatever he wants but keep other women away from her house. Sardar and his team start working for JP Singh, the son of Ramidhir Singh, unaware of their real identity. They steal petrol and land from JP Singh until one day, during a confrontation, he learns that Sardar is Shahid's son. Sardar and Asghar are in prison after they assault JP Singh, an elected member of the state assembly, and become famous for their notoriety in jail. However, the jail couldn't hold them for long, and they broke out soon. Soon after their escape and return to Wasseypur, Sardar falls for a woman named Durga and marries her. In the coming years, Sardar rises as a mafia and challenges the authority of both the Qureshis and the Singhs, leading to an all-out 3-sided gang war. Sardar has 3 sons with Nagma, Danish, Faisal, and Perpendicular, and one with Durga named Definite. Danish grows up and works for Sardar. However, Faisal becomes a junkie after catching his mother and his uncle Nasir in a compromising position. As Sardar becomes rich and powerful, he gradually overtakes the Qurayshis out in the power map of Wasseypur. Sultanate Aku's nephew, Sultan, teams up with Ramidhir to kill Danish but fails. Soon after, Faisal is caught buying guns by the police and avenges his grandfather's murder by killing the gun seller Yadav. Danish falls for Shama Parveen, a Qurayshi girl, and Sultan Qureshi's sister, and their marriage brings an uneasy peace between the Khans and Qurayshis. Faisal, too, falls for a Qurayshi girl named Mohsina. Everything seemed to return to peace, and Sardar moved back in with Nagma and their sons, but tragedy was about to strike. On an eventful day, as Sardar leaves Durga's house after handing her monthly expenses, she rings up the Qurayshis, informing them of Sardar's departure. Gangs of Wasseypur Part 1 ends with the brutal murder of Sardar Singh as he is shot relentlessly, while he takes cover behind his car. Gangs of Wasseypur Part 2 picks up where the first film left off, that is, with Sardar's murder. Danish and Ashar inform Faisal that he had been deliberately made to smoke joints by his friend Fazlu to get information about Sardar Khan's whereabouts and movements. It wasn't before long that an enraged and vengeful Danish tracked down people responsible for his father's death and killed them. Knowing that he'd soon be caught for the murders, he surrendered himself in a petty theft case. But life wasn't going to be simple in Wasseypur, and during a court appearance, Danish is shot dead by Sultan and Fazlu. Faisal promises an uncertain Nagma that he will avenge his grandfather's, father's, and brother's deaths. This scene was iconic and became a legend in the Hindi film industry. Faisal beheads Fazlu in cold blood and strikes fear into the hearts of the people of Wasseypur. He also forms a truce with Ramidhir Singh under the condition that none of them would initiate an attack on each other's men or family, and if they do, the consequences would be bloody, brutal, and an elegant mess. Life goes on relatively peacefully in Wasseypur for the Qurayshis, Khans, and Singhs because of this uncomfortable truce. Faisal marries Mohsina, and his youngest sibling, Perpendicular, becomes something of a brute, and may just be the craziest Gangs of Wasseypur character. He's a teenager with a speech impediment, who roams around with a razor blade in his mouth. Taking utmost advantage of his brother being a crime lord, he terrorizes everyone around him. One would say he was as cunning as Joffrey from Game of Thrones. He gets away with looting shops thanks to his brother's fearsome image, and when it becomes unbearable, several shopkeepers meet Sultan and give him Perpendicular's contract. He succeeds, but one of Perpendicular's friends manages to escape and inform Faisal, who had been arrested because one of his men had sold him out. However, Faisal and the cops find Perpendicular's body near the railway tracks. Faisal and Definite meet in jail. Definite has been making a name for himself in the world of crime as well. Ramidhir uses Shamshad, Faisal's business partner turned foe, to bail Definite out of jail and instigate him against Faisal. However, Faisal is aware of the plan and informs Definite before he leaves prison. In 2004, after Faisal is released from jail, and assuming that the Khans must be celebrating Faisal's release with their guard down, he attacks Faisal Khan's house. This brings us to the first scene from Gangs of Wasseypur Part 1. Faisal and his family survive. However, Sultan attacks again in a few days and shoots down Faisal's sister-in-law, Nagma, and his uncle Asghar. Some members of Faisal's gang, along with Definite, track down Sultan and kill him, thus avenging Danish, Shama, Nagma, and Asghar. Once again, the entire sequence of Sultan's assassination was one masterpiece of a scene, with elements of thrill, suspense, and humor. Upon Faisal's suggestion, Definite surrenders and goes to jail. In a bid to cause a rift between Faisal and Definite, Ramidhir sends Amol, Ikhlaq, to Faisal's gang. Ikhlaq had his own bloody history with Faisal's family. He was the son born out of a crime committed by his father Mohsin, who was on the receiving end of Sardar Khan's justice in Part 1. Being an educated and English-speaking man, Ikhlaq started bringing profits to Faisal by legitimizing his illegitimate income. Definite soon feels abandoned, yet he double-crosses several people to save Faisal. Things changed when Faisal decided to call quits on this life of crime and violence, and he ran for elections. But it seldom happens that ghosts of future past leave anyone, and Faisal was no different. A strange turn of events revealed how Ramidhir Singh had been behind almost everything wrongful that happened to Faisal and his family. In a massive bloodbath, and one of the best climaxes of Indian cinema, Faisal showered Ramidhir with bullets. This sequence bears an uncanny resemblance with the assassination of Tywin Lannister at the hands of his son, Tyrion. As the lone survivors of the ensuing firefight with the police, Faisal and Definite are arrested. When the policemen stop for refreshments, Definite kills Faisal and is set free. It is revealed that the entire massacre was planned by Ramidhar's son J.P. Singh. In 2009, towards the end of the 7th decade of this rivalry, Definite probably ruled over Wasseypur. In a parallel to Sardar's childhood, his only other surviving king, Faisal's son, is in hiding in Mumbai under the care of his mother Mohsina and his great-uncle Nasir. We can only wish that director Anurag Kashyap decided to pick up this story once again. Why should you watch the film? So, it goes beyond doubt that this two-part gangster epic was one of the best films that Indian cinema ever produced. So much so that many international critics have not only compared it, but have often found Wasseypur better than many films by Scorsese and Tarantino. Without further ado, let's dive into the top 5 reasons why you should watch the film. Number 1. Unique characters. Anurag Kashyap has skillfully crafted each character in Gangs of Wasseypur to make the town of Wasseypur a colorful medley of lovable scoundrels. Although there are no lovable characters, they are all incredibly crafted, and the actors playing them have delivered one of the best performances of their lives. Gangs of Wasseypur has an army of characters. Here are a few who leave their imprint in your hearts and mind. Sardar Khan. The patriarch and protagonist of the first part, Sardar Khan, is a vengeful maniac portrayed by the legendary Indian actor, Manoj Bajpayee. However, he is no brooding hero. In the streets, he is brutal and ruthless towards his enemies, but as soon as he enters his home, he cowers from his wife, Nagma. Sardar might be an nymphomaniac, considering how he can never keep it in his pants despite having 2 wives. Through it all, Sardar maintains his craftedness and wacky sense of humor. Nagma cartoon. Even though men dominate the film, Richard Chudda's Nagma demands attention, especially in the way she can make her gangster husband cower upon witnessing her wrath. Nagma is a motor-mouth spitfire who never shies away from using the most vulgar slang. It is a treat to watch her grow and accept unpleasant facets of her life, all the while demanding respect from the men around her. Faisal Khan. Nawazuddin Siddiqui plays a myriad of different characters within Faisal, who is at the center of the second part of the film. He is a caring son, an apathetic pothead, a love-mad boy, a Bollywood lover, and a vengeful gangster. He undergoes a Michael Corleone-esque transformation as he goes from being a pot-headed young lad to an overlord of a criminal empire who lusts on vengeance. On the other hand, he is also a romantic who refuses to be like his philandering father and remains monogamous through the film. Definite. Reminiscent of the Tony Montana persona, Definite always has a Bollywood one-liner ready. He is an unpredictable man who plays with snakes and has no qualms about killing people in stupid bets. With a deep desire to take over his half-brother Faisal's criminal empire, he is a ticking bomb waiting to explode. Interestingly, Sishan Kadri, the man who played the character of Definite, was also the writer of Gangs of Wasseypur. He agreed to make the film with director Anurag on the condition that he be given Definite's role. Ramidhar Singh. The film's primary antagonist, Ramidhar, is cold and calculating as he plots the downfall of 3 generations of the Khan family. At the beginning of the film, he owns a few mines and goes on to rule over Dhanbad as he becomes a politician and builds a criminal empire of his own. Having been played by Tigmanshu Dhulia, a noted Indian filmmaker, the character became something of a cult favorite. Number 2. Direction. Anurag Kashyap uses guerrilla filmmaking techniques where he shoots in real locations without disrupting the natural order of the place. He makes regular use of hidden cameras, improvised dialogues, and handheld shots, which make the film seem more authentic and fresh. All characters in Gangs of Wasseypur have an inherent dark tone, and yet using wit and humor he adds life and color to his films. Shot on a budget of Rs. 18.5 crores. Gangs of Wasseypur afforded Kashyap freedom to experiment and veer off from the well-trodden path. The film has a neo-noir theme, director Kashyap's stable. Music and camera work. Sneak and Walk are composed a unique and bizarre soundtrack of all time in Gangs of Wasseypur. This brilliantly eclectic soundtrack is a weird yet spectacular mix of Bhojpuri, Caribbean, folk, Western, Indian, and street music integrated cleverly into the movie's storyline. The camera work for Gangs of Wasseypur is fast as the camera is constantly moving through spaces and scenes, always in the right spot to capture the gory action in all its glory. The visual scheme is evocative, contrasting even the bright sunny shots with deep contrasting tones. Color and mayhem bloody going hand in hand. Number 3. A fine blend of Indian and Western cinema. This 5-hour 21-minute epic was the first commercial Indian film to be showcased during the Director's Fortnight event at the Cannes Film Festival. Adored by the master of gangster movies Martin Scorsese, Gangs of Wasseypur features worlds, plots, and characters that are meticulously stylized to create an authentic picture of Wasseypur and small-town Bihar. On a similar note, Kashyap's characters resemble Scorsese and Tarantino's iconic characters. I mean, from Tony Montana to Tommy DeVito, you'll find a bit of everything. Both filmmakers make use of trademark character traits and idiosyncratic dialogue laced with profanities and pop culture references to create iconic and memorable characters that come together to form a spectacular experience when these characters interact with each other on screen. And that's exactly what director Anurag Kashyap has sought to achieve. Gangs of Wasseypur incorporates the staples of Western gangster genre: violence, witty dialogue, humor, non-linear plot, pop culture references, and profanity. Impressively, they're ironing itself a spot next to gangster classics like Goodfellas, Godfather, and Once Upon a Time in America. That was our list of reasons why you should watch Gangs of Wasseypur, an Indian film that rivals Tarantino's masterpieces. Stick around for more exciting content on crime thrillers, sci-fi, and horror. That was all in this video. Do hang around to discover more such gems from around the world. Stay safe and have a good one.